Okay, welcome everybody. Oh, I forgot to turn my light on. Let's see, it doesn't work. There we go. We're in business. Okay. Interesting. Usually I talk about building and construction stuff, but we're gonna kind of deviate a little. By the way, my name is Lance Luke. We have Martin Pea here. He just finished a grueling weekend of garage sales, and I can't believe it. He did like a whole day Saturday, a whole day Sunday, and he still didn't sell his garage. So I don't know. He's not really a good salesman or something. But anyway, um, believe it or not, today is National Player Ukulele Day. So get your ukes out, dust it off if you haven't played it. It's also Teacher Appreciation Day, and it's World Tuna Day. For me, that doesn't mean I'm going to eat tuna sandwich for lunch. I'm going to eat some kind of ahi for dinner. So it's also Building Safety Week, believe it or not. I was talking to some people from DPP, and this is the week that we celebrate. I wouldn't say celebrate, but promote building safety. And believe it or not, somebody said, well, when was the first building code? And I had to think, and then I remember the first building code. Well, the building code was first used in 2000 BC, and there was the city of Babylon. You probably heard about that story. And then in the United States, the first formal building code was written in 1788, a couple years before Martin was born, but that's okay. All right, so let's go right into it. But before that, this is the National Building Expert. Thank you for tuning in, whether you're on Facebook or on our Zoom platform. Welcome to Ask the Building Expert webinar series. Why do we do this? We do this to help condo owners, real estate people, attorneys, property managers, realtors, homeowners, whoever's interested in the topics that we have. And we've got some varied topics. Also, construction management inspection, which is the company that I own, and we're sponsoring all these webinars. All right, topic of today, condo board errors. And you might think, condo board errors, what does that really mean? Well, in a nutshell, it means that you have thousands of condominiums, and although we're broadcasting from Honolulu, Hawaii, there's people on our webinar that are from other states and also other parts of the country and countries, international. And there's condominium projects not only in Hawaii, not only in the United States, but also in all over the world. So the information I'm going to give you is basically useful for anywhere you are, but I may share some specific things specifically that have to do with the state of Hawaii. So it may not apply to your location, but something would be similar if you did the research and things like that. So condo board errors. The reason I'm doing this is because historically there's been more and more condo associations and boards getting sued from unit owners. And I was thinking, well, what's the reason why? And the reason why is these condo board of directors are making these mistakes and not running the board properly. So I'm going to be discussing some of those things, and feel free to bring up any questions you may have and put it in the chat or Q&A of our Zoom. And if you're on Facebook, just make a post and we'll be able to read it. One of the first things that the board is responsible for is maintaining the property, which is maintaining the property value. If you buy into a condo today, and you're spending $1 million, you want to be sure that your value is maintained and your building is not going to fall apart, right? And so what are the things that you have to look for to maintain the property? One of the first things is safety, right? So a properly maintained building equals safety and safety precautions taken, which will lead to increased value. So common sense, if your building is neglected, no one fixes anything, the building starts getting run down, you have water leaks, electrical problems, all kinds of things like that, the value of the building is going down. New buyers, when they look at the building, they may not be interested in because it's not appealing to them, and they're concerned about how much is it going to cost to fix these things. Okay, so an unsafe building increases liability and lawsuits. So if you have pieces of concrete falling off, or your asphalt road got potholes and cars drive over it, and suddenly their axle breaks off of their car, or they're walking on the walkway and there's a lifted area, they trip and they get hurt. These things are a liability, and there's insurance claims and lawsuits. So the message today is to, keep your building safe. The other thing is emergency repairs are very costly, as you know. So if you have a condo building that's old, and when I say old, it may be built in the 50s, 60s, or even 70s, and you have cast iron piping, drain piping. And if you constantly have leaks in your building and you don't fix it, or you do spot repairs, you fix one unit, but all the piping in the whole building needs to be replaced, and you don't do that, you're only fixing it as needed. Guess what? You're spending thousands of dollars just going and doing the repairs, where of course it's going to be millions to replace all the piping, but in the end, that's what you should do to be proactive, because insurance claims add up, and then sooner or later the insurance company is going to go, we're not paying any more claims. In fact, we're canceling your insurance because you got too many claims, and you should have replaced your piping years ago, but you didn't, so now we're out of here. They go, okay, good, I'll just go down the street and get insurance from the other insurance company. But when the other insurance company finds out that you got all these claims, they're going, no, we don't want to touch you with a 10-foot pole. The other thing is that, okay, we'll insure you, but now your yearly premium is going to be between 150 to 250,000 a year, right? Or they might say, no one's going to insure you, so you got to go to the secondary market, and they're going to say, all right, so your yearly premium is $1 million a year. You're going to be stuck. Okay, so that's the downside. And guess what? All these things are the responsibility of board members. Board members, when they sign up, right, and they get elected to the board, they have a duty to not only themselves, but to all the condo unit owners. That's their duty, right? And to maintain the property and make sure everybody's safe, and make sure there's enough money collected, and the money that's spent is spent for the right things, and all those nice things. Let's talk about fixing common areas. So do board members and property managers raise the issue? Are they doing inspections? You should be doing at least a monthly inspection. Okay, now if the board isn't doing it, your resident or site manager should be doing it, or your property manager. If your property manager is contracted, and in their contract they're supposed to inspect the property quarterly, once a year, or every month, are they actually doing that? And how do you know? If you ask them, are you inspecting the property? They say, yeah, I walk around and all that. But why don't you ask for a copy of their inspection report, right? Say, can you give me a copy of your inspection report so I can see what's in it, and follow up if things need to be followed up? If you don't get a formal inspection report, how do you know whether that person is actually doing the inspection, or if they are, how do you know they're doing it properly, right? If their complex has 7 buildings, maybe they only walked around 1 or 2 and they said, yeah, I inspected the property. So things to look at: your grounds, your parking areas, you have potholes, you have cracks in your asphalt driveway. The other things is the walkways. You have lifted up walkways from tree roots or sunken areas where the dirt's sinking, and then now you have a high level where someone could trip and fall. Any safety items should be corrected. Let's talk about your building exterior, the outside of your building. Your roof, is your roof leaking? Concrete spalling, you have cracks or pieces of concrete falling off your building. Is your paint in good shape, or does it need to be repainted? Okay, the paint is only going to last 8 to 10 years, and that's probably the norm. Okay, waterproofing, do you have waterproofing on lanais? You have waterproofing on your parking ramps. If you have a parking deck, you have waterproofing on your deck, your drive lanes where the stalls are. How about leaking windows? Okay, there's a lot of that. I get calls all the time: windows leaking, water's coming into my unit, what's going on? The caulking has failed. Okay, so that's something. And then also water infiltration conditions. Water infiltration conditions could be due to leaking windows. It could also be due to missing pieces of concrete and the water's coming in, or there's damage to your stucco wall and water's coming in, or it could be coming in from the roof, okay, or other areas. So these are the things that your board is responsible for, okay? Now, if you're a condo unit owner, you have an obligation to let the board know that there's these things that need to be fixed, but sometimes you do that and no one listens to you, but you have to keep hounding them if nothing happens. Okay, so yeah, if you look at these images, it's obvious there's a pothole there. Every time it rains, water collects, and then it gets worse and worse over time. If you see a pothole this big, you might have to ask yourself, who's minding the store? Who's fixing this thing? As you can see, this thing was repaired like once or twice already. And just remember that fixing a pothole is only temporary. That's not a permanent fix. The permanent fix is digging up the whole asphalt and putting in a new road. And then if you look at the other picture I have here, this is a hand railing. And I guess the person that they hired didn't know what they were doing, and they just kept putting in more nails or screws, and so doesn't look too good, right? So many screws, it's screwed up, but let's move on. Common areas, like I mentioned before, I talked to you about piping. What about electrical? If you have a building that's built in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when was the last time the board had an inspection of the entire electrical? It's overdue, right? So got to pay attention to electrical. It's not like set it and forget it kind of thing. Always have to maintain, always have to inspect and see what could be the problem. Don't wait until you have a short circuit or there's a fire that burns everything down. Okay, so this is part of preventive maintenance. And then plumbing, I already talked to you about that. If you're wondering what the pictures look like, you see that bluish, looking substance in the pipe. This is pipe lining that failed in of a pipe lining project. So this is one type of plumbing fix, pipe lining. The other type is replacing the pipe. And I'm not really a fan of pipe lining, but it could be okay if it's done properly. Okay, so make sure that the board gets their common areas fixed. Let's talk about the money side of things. Do we have money? Does your condo have money? Now, there's two budgets in a condo. There's an operating budget, which pays for general operating expenses, right? Utility bills, um, little fix up here and there, uh, gates and things like that. But the reserve study, okay, you have a reserve budget that is made for big ticket items, okay, like your roof, your building painting, your concrete spalling repair, waterproofing, elevators, fire alarm system, and things like that. So the board has a responsibility, and it's a financial responsibility to make sure that there's a reserve study done. Make sure that the reserve study is correct, it's done properly, and a professional does it. Okay, a lot of buildings have reserve studies done by somebody on the board or an outside CPA that's not really certified to do condo reserve studies, or they have their property management company do the reserve study. But whoever does it, you got to ask yourself, is it correct? Okay, and then let's presume that the reserve study that was completed is exactly correct. It's accurate. It has all the factual data and all that. The next question I ask, or you can ask, is your reserve study being followed? The reserve study is basically a financial document, right? So is the board reviewing the reserve study, and is the board following the reserve study? The reserve study has a listing of all these major components in the building. And if you go down the list, you could see when this component needs to be repaired or replaced, and is there enough money to do that, and is the board following that? I've seen reserve studies where 8 years in the past they were supposed to do their roof, and today they still didn't do it, right? And why? And what happens if there's leaks? Okay, so it's not a good thing. And I can tell you that I review thousands of reserve studies, and most of them are not correct. Okay, and that's already a problem. Now, the ones that are correct, is the board really following it? So that's a big question to ask your management company and your board, right? Because most people don't know how to review a reserve study, but you get a professional to look at it, and they can probably find faults. If they don't, well, good, the reserve study was pretty solid. So if the board is not following the reserve study, that's wrong already. If the board is not following the reserve study and the reserve study is wrong, there's a problem. If the reserve study is correct and the board is not following that, then that's still wrong. So, these are some red flags to be aware of. There's some boards, okay, and some board members, they operate like some kind of dictatorship, my way or the highway. There could be abuse of power, and I'm not saying this happens on every single condo board, but it may happen on some, right? Where you have a board president or someone else that is running the show, and they're not willing to listen to anybody else, and they're not even willing to follow the laws. So they kind of make up their own rules as they go, and then they act like those are the rules that should be followed, right? Board meetings. If you're a condo owner, I urge you to attend your board meetings, because that's how you know what's going on or what's not going on, right? Board meetings should be basically not a social club or get together, talk story. Hey, how's the weather? How are you doing? That the board meeting is actually there, set for a purpose, to actually run the condo association. Okay, and believe it or not, there's rules that need to be followed, and you just got to make sure that the rules are followed. And if not, you have to speak out, right? And then the truth and consequences. If there's abuse of power, or the board's not doing their proper duty, what happens, right? In the case of these condo unit owners that are suing for various reasons, what happens is the board has to prove that they followed the law and they did the right thing. If they can't do that, and if it's proven that they're wrong, then basically they lost. Okay. And it's just getting more and more crazy. As I mentioned before, not following the law. What is the law anyway, right? So there's basic requirements. In a condominium, it's like a small government. It's basically a government within a government. So you have the basic requirements, which is a condo governing documents. And what are those? When somebody buys a condo, there's these documents called bylaws, declaration, house rules, and so forth. And those are the law of the land with respect to a condo. Now, your neighbor who isn't living in your condo building doesn't have to follow these laws, but every condo owner has to follow the laws, and you can't opt out. Once you buy in a condo, you have to abide by whatever the rules are. And for instance, you can't say, oh, I never use a swimming pool, so therefore I'm only paying 80% of my maintenance fee. No, that doesn't cut it. You have to pay 100% regardless of whether you use the common areas or not, right? And you can't opt out of the bylaws or house rules. That's already a given. There's also the Hawaii Revised Statutes, which is HRS 514B, and basically that's the condo law in the state of Hawaii. And you may ask, well, what is this fiduciary duty about? So I'm going to let you know. Okay, so the definition, so in exercising fiduciary duties of board members, they must act in good faith in the best interests of the association, consistent with the duty of loyalty, exercising the same degree of care and skill in making decisions or taking actions that would be expected of an ordinarily prudent person in the same situation or similar situation. So basically, it's not making up your own rules because you're the board president or board vice president or you're a board member. Okay, you cannot make up your own rules. You have to follow what the law is. Okay, and in addition to your condo governing documents, which is the condo requirements for the specific condo, and the state law with respect to condominiums, there's also the building code and state and federal laws. Okay, so if your condo governing documents is not specific on a certain issue, like keeping the pool gate locked all the time, okay, then the building code comes into play. So every board member, it has a duty to follow all these laws. The condo governing documents, HRS 514B, the building code, state health codes, federal laws, and all that. There's no exemption from not following that, right? And there's also, regarding a reserve study, there's no exemption from any board members. There's nothing in the reserve study law that says if the condo association does not have any money to fix something, they don't have to fix it. Okay, there's no law like that. Okay, if you can find it, please let me know, because I haven't seen it. And the situation is that a lot of condo boards say, oh, the reason why we didn't fix something is because we don't have any money, or we don't believe that it's a problem. Okay, now, what example could it be? Well, concrete spalling, we have cracks in our building. No, we don't think it's a problem. That's what the board's saying, right? Well, how is the board to know what qualifications do they have, right? So you have to say, can you hire an expert to come in and inspect it and give us an opinion, because you're not qualified to make that kind of determination. Before I get into these case studies, I want to let you know the I guess the most common mistakes condo board members make, and then so you can understand, what I'm talking about here. And let me back up a little, let you know. A lot of people know that I'm the national building expert. They know that my field is in, uh, buildings and construction and in that industry. But I'm also familiar with real estate, condo management, property management, and so forth. Currently, I sit on 3 condo boards. I'm personally on 3 different condominium boards. So when I'm talking about these board errors and all that, I'm not only talking about what I heard, I'm talking to you about my direct experience in property management and also being on condo boards. And I'm letting you know what things to be aware of. So here's some things that I observed from other boards. There's a mistake with some condo boards, and it may be their personalities or whatnot. They sometimes become a dictator, and because they have that role, they can basically tell everybody what to do or what not to do and make their own rules up. That's not the case. They get like power hungry, and they have to remember that it's not about them. It's about serving the interests of the entire community. They're responsible for every single board member in the condo building or condo project, not themselves. If it's self-serving, that's not a good thing, right? So they have to be more open-minded. The other mistake is sometimes because they've been on the board for a long time, many years, they get impatient and they don't want to listen to people. At board meetings, when there's like a owners forum, they say, okay, 2 minutes, tell me what the problem is, and then they get cut off. They say, okay, we'll look into it. What, you have a roof leak? All right, we'll have somebody check it out. That's it. And then you find out later nobody even checked it out. Okay, so you have to follow up if you're on the board. Hey, the other thing is if there's a vote and the majority of the vote goes one way, and it's not really the way that the majority of the unit owners want, please explain the no vote to the owners, to the membership. Don't just say, oh, the majority of the board voted, that's it. So you have to communicate better, provide an explanation. And then when there's complaints, even if somebody complains about you to the management company or to the board, if you're on the board, don't hold a grudge against them and make things miserable for them. Okay, so the other thing is you have to, if you're on the board, and even if you're not on the board, just remember this, board members have a duty to run the operation like it's a business. It's not this like, oh, whenever we get around to it, we'll do it. Okay. A condominium is actually a ongoing business. It's a nonprofit organization, and it's a business. You have to treat it like a business, right? Get serious about it. And I think the number one issue is, lack of communication with the condo owners, right? You have to be transparent and be upfront. Let the unit owners know what's going on. If there's nothing going on, let them know. But if something's going on, don't try to hide it because you want to look good and you don't want to look bad. You have to, that's your duty. You have to let the people know, not meet amongst yourselves, have secret meetings, and then later on, the decision is made and that's it. No one can argue with you or whatever. So there's a lot to be concerned with. And, there's no law in Hawaii that if you serve on a condo board, you need to pass a test and get certified. Anybody can volunteer to be on the board. You don't have to have any experience, but there are classes and seminars that you can take to run a board or, as a board member. But how many board members actually take the class? I'm for, if you're going to serve on the board, you should get like some kind of certification that shows that you actually went to a class on how to serve on a board and what the legal ramifications are and what your duty is. I think that that would be good, because there's so many situations where board members don't know what's going on. They just want to be on the board for whatever reason. Okay, so let's talk about some case studies. This is lawsuits, right? And a lot of these are ongoing, so I can't really mention the names to you or anything, but I can kind of give you an idea of what it's all about. So Makiki Fire Restoration, there was a fire in a high-rise building, and somehow there was some mix-up, and the unit didn't get fixed up, and it turned into a lawsuit. Okay, is the board responsible? Somebody's responsible for following up. Then you have a Waikiki condo building roof leak. Okay, and it's an ongoing leak from the roof, and it hasn't been fixed yet. Okay, and my opinion is that the board is responsible for getting that fixed. Kapiolani building spalling repair. There was this entire spalling repair done of the building, and then one unit owner got a bill for his share because the board accused him of enclosing his lanai, and the enclosure caused the spalling. So they wanted to bill the guy extra. That's not part of the association bill. Next is Ala Moana building cast iron plumbing leak. That got settled, and what that was about is the board failed to redo all the cast iron piping, and they only did part of it, and there was a major leak that flooded out this commercial condo unit, and the claim was for over $1 million. Okay, and was the board responsible? Well, my opinion is that the board was responsible to fix the common areas of their building. And then you have a neighbor island noise lawsuit where the board should have taken more responsibility in making sure the noise issue was mitigated. And so not only on the island of Oahu, but there's lawsuits, condo lawsuits on the neighbor islands as well. Let's talk about some more. There's an illegal rock wall. What happened on this one? There's a condo made up of only several buildings, and one of the condo unit owners decided that he wanted to build nice rock walls to maintain the property. Unfortunately, he didn't get board approval, and that turned into a problem, because the other condo owners are saying, we didn't give you approval. And the unit owner said, well, you saw me building the wall and you didn't tell me anything. Okay, now the biggie here is that there was no building permit, and the association was actually in trouble because there was a rock wall built without a permit. And although the board didn't build the wall, they would still be in trouble because they would have to approve of building the wall. So that got settled. Okay, and then cast iron pipe leak in a hotel. It was a slip and fall case, and this was interesting because it was a personal injury case, but it was due to the cast iron piping backing up, and it was a hotel condo, and they said, oh, it's not our fault because the lady wasn't paying attention and slipped, turned the water on, but the investigation proved that the cast iron piping was bad and it needed to be replaced, and it wasn't, and that was the cause of the backup. Okay, and then Kaka'ako high rise, that's actually a case ongoing now that hopefully we'll see what the results are when the case is over. And then you have a high low-rise building in Kona, and it's a spalling case where the board hired a contractor to fix spalling repair on an emergency basis, and so the contractor only fixed emergency spalls, but then the board sued the contractor and claimed that he never fixed all the spalls in the building. And the reason why I'm throwing this in is because the board has a duty to investigate and find out what the facts are, what the truth is. But instead, there was a falling out between some board members and a contractor. So they got all mad at the contractor and decided to sue. So that's an ongoing case that I can't really discuss too much about, but that's what's going on. And then the last one is Kauai construction defect case where it's was a brand new property, and there was some kind of mix-up in the transition where the developer turns things over to the association. And I think the board should have had a professional inspection done on their own rather than relying on the property management company or the developer to go around and do the punch list with them, because now it's still an issue. They're trying to resolve it because there's claims regarding construction defects and all that. So these are different cases. They're not all the same, but they still involve condominium board members. Okay, so let's see what else I have. Okay, so that's basically my talk. It was not that long, but it was good enough with enough meat. So the conclusion that I have for you today is that you make sure that the board follows the rules. Okay, follows the state law and follows the condo rules. And if there's any deviation from that, then it's wrong. And a lot of unit owners are not aware of the specific condo law. They're aware of the condo documents. You pull it up and you read it, right? But what is the law? Okay, there's a condo law in Hawaii, and it's retaliation. You cannot, as a board, if you don't like another board member or unit owner, kick them off the board or don't talk to them or don't follow up if they have complaints, right? So if a unit owner complains because of roof leaks and they keep complaining and they sue, right, the board, sue the association, you can't retaliate and ignore them and not fix the leak, right? You have to take steps to mitigate the problem. Okay, so read the law and be familiar with it and raise the issue. If the board members aren't following it, keep writing letters and tell them this is not right, what you're doing. Okay. Now we've given a lot of webinars on building and construction issues in the past. If you go to our website, you can watch the webinars. They're available on demand, and there's a whole bunch there. Every time we do a webinar like this, we put the video on that you can watch and you can share with other people. So spread the word. Our whole list is on our website, which will give you the information. And then what's coming up very fast along the lines of condos, the next webinar will be on condos, and it's going to be on condo lawsuits. There's trouble in paradise. I'm gonna get down and let you know about these condo lawsuits and the ones that I have been involved in, so you have the correct information. And then some of the other webinars coming up, I'm going to be talking about the real estate development process, so you understand that. Also, talking about Aloha Stadium, water damage, construction defect litigation cases. I got a real estate one called the real estate seller disclosure and then be talking about the rail and Red Hill, and then also towards the end of the year, I'm giving a webinar on why hire a construction manager. If you're on the board or you own an apartment building, why do you need to hire an independent person? Why do you need to hire a consultant or construction manager? Why can't you just hire the contractor and get the work done? Why do you have to pay extra for that? Well, I'll be telling you more about that in the future. So here's our website, askbuildingexpert.now.site. It's a pretty big website because we have all our past webinars there. We have our PowerPoints that you can take away, download. We have books, and we have our a book club. If you want to join our awesome book club, you're going to get a free book, book of the month. Every month, we're going to email you the latest book that we publish. So after we finish publishing it on Amazon, then it's available for purchase, then you can get it free. And right now, we got monster houses, and we got how safe is your building, and concrete spalling repair. And then after that, we're going to have cast iron piping. So if you want to get it free, go to our website. If you want to pay, and we don't mind, go to Amazon and you can, buy the paperback. So that's our website. Visit it often because we keep putting new things on. You got questions, I got answers. My phone number is 808-422-2132. If you call and I don't answer, that's because I'm either giving a webinar, or I'm on a roof, or I'm in court testifying on a court case. Email lanceluke@hawaiibuildingexpert.com. Now, you might have some questions, so I'm gonna see if Martin's around and see if he got any questions that came in. So, oh, Martin, I see you. You got any questions that anybody asked?
Let me unmute myself, and yes, we've had a few come in. It's been a little quiet, but I'm going to give you a couple of that come in here. Is this one? Maybe this is one of our late attendees. This is what are the most common errors condo boards often make? So,
well, I think well, it may not be an error. I think there's a fact that some condo boards don't know what their duties are, what their position is. So in every position in a condo board, just like any other board, is you have president, VP, secretary, treasurer, and you might have other positions, but each person has a position that has different duties. The president has a different duty from the treasurer and the secretary. So I think it's not an error. I think that these people that are on the board need to know what their position is. They need to know what their duties are with respect to that certain position. Okay, once they know that, then they got to be familiar with the condo documents, the governing documents, and they have to be familiar with the condo law in whatever state they're in. So in the state of Hawaii, we got 514B. They have to know. If anybody read that, I mean, it's not a 10-pager, it's multiple pages. And that's basically the Bible for condominium law. And if there's any complaints against a board member, guess what? If they hire an attorney and the attorney decides to sue the association, they're gonna cite the condo law, and they're gonna say, here's sections of the law that you did not follow, right? So that's would be a good thing for board members to be familiar with what the law actually is, because sometimes they just maybe call up the property manager or talk to somebody else and said, what's the law on this? And then they get some verbal information that may or may not be true. Okay, or it may be skewed in a way that protects them, but that's not really what the law says. See, so and as far as the errors, I would say reserve study, review the reserve study, make sure you have enough money, make sure you review all your income and expenses, and vet the contractors. Don't just say, oh, okay, you're hiring this contractor, and every month they're submitting their bills. You got to make sure that somebody's a gatekeeper. That's why on bigger projects, I always say you got to get a construction expert to help you run the project. Even if you're hiring a reputable contractor, somebody has to review their pay requests. The contractor's not going to review their own, right? And if the board members aren't experienced enough, they can't be put in that position. If the resident manager or site manager does not have the qualifications, and the board should not expect them to be running a large construction project. Property managers aren't trained and certified to be running large construction projects, so don't expect the property manager to be doing that. They can pay the bills, but not oversee the project. So hopefully that answers that question.
No, that was a good answer, Lance, and may have addressed this next one, which is how can the condo errors be avoided or corrected? So I'm not sure if you kind of addressed that, but
Well, their errors could be avoided if the rules are followed. If the condo governing documents are followed and the state laws with respect to condominiums are followed, then that's how you can avoid errors. You got to be sure that as a board member, understand what the laws are, legal ramifications, and the downsides to not following the law, and go from there. Now, if there's mistakes made, then somebody needs to pick up the pieces and say, okay, I understand that we were neglectful and we didn't take care of this issue right away, so we'll get on it. And I personally, I've had to do that. I didn't know that there was something that was not resolved. Somebody had a water leak, and for 3 months they never got reimbursement from the insurance company or something. And then I found out about it, and I called. I said, sorry, there was some mix up, but let me get on it and then follow up on. So the key is communication. People are okay with you saying, sorry, we screwed up and I'm going to be on it now, rather than you ignoring them and go, oh, gee, for 3 months, no one responded back. Oh, I'm not going to talk to them. And then so another month or two goes by, and then they get more upset because no one's even telling them if anything's being done, right? And they go to a board meeting and log on if it's on Zoom, and they start raising a ruckus going, no one got back to me. And then everybody is like defensive at that point. So, I mean, if it's a valid claim, yeah, come to the table and take the responsibility for it. If it's not, just tell them, hey, your own insurance company should have handled it. Not us. It's not a board thing, right? So yeah, that's some information that could help.
okay, good. It kind of gets back to what I heard you talk about earlier. You got to really treat the thing as a business with good communication. Yeah, and that's true. Yeah. The other question that's come up here is, again, you probably touched on it, but what are the consequences of these errors for the condo community? I'm presuming the community is probably the condo owners or the whole condo project. Yeah.
Well, the downside, the consequences is that if you get one unit owner who decides to sue, right, guess what? The insurance company gets involved. They have their attorney. The association has to hire their own attorney, right? And who pays for that? Who pays for the attorney that's hired for the condo association? The condo association pays. Every unit owner pays the legal fees. So the downside is that it's costing more money. First, it may be negligent on the part of the board, and then now you're involved in this legal situation, and now it's costing more money. Okay, so it's a double jeopardy because a unit owner that sued the association pays for their own attorney, right, to represent them, and then they're paying a percentage of the other attorney for the association because they're a unit owner. So it goes on and on and on. And then some other unit owners go, why, how come we have this $30,000 legal bill? What is that? Oh yeah, some unit owner sued us because the roof leaked. Well, what did you do about it? Well, we're trying to get it fixed, right? Or some excuse. And sometimes when I investigate these cases, I'm shaking my head going, they've been trying to get a roof fix for 2 years. How hard it is to hire a professional to go up there and do testing and figure out what the problem is and fix it, right? Um, or there was a case of somebody had mold in their unit, and I go in and look, I go, okay, yeah, it's mold. Oh, by the way, how long has this been going on? Oh, a year and a half. Well, didn't you notify the board and the management company? Oh yeah, I did. And they showed me this 3-ring binder with all their correspondence. And I'm like, well, what's the gist of it? They go, oh, well, they said that it's my responsibility because um I enclose, the lanai and this and that. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't make sense. So come to find out that they did enclose their lanai, but they weren't responsible for the roof. It was still an association. So just, misunderstanding, but it's costly. And when you get to the point where somebody has to hire an attorney, it's already pretty bad, right? Because you look at, like, we're in Hawaii, local custom, you don't sue somebody, oh, because they did wrong and it's, the first thing. You wait, you give them time, and you give them more time and more time, and then finally there's no more time because you can't live in your unit because it's flooded or there's mold or whatever. Then you're forced to sue, right? And a lot of these lawsuits shouldn't even be lawsuits at all, right? But what happens is it's reality. The two sides can't agree, and then it gets settled in court or arbitration or mediation. It's just unfortunate that happens. So, okay, what else we got?
Okay, well, I have a feeling you're gonna address a lot of this more in your next one on the lawsuits and condo board, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, the last one that we've got here today is kind of a wrap-up question, I think. What strategies do condo board members use, or can they use, to improve their communication and decision-making within the board?
did you say communication?
Yeah, that too.
Okay, so don't live, if you're on the board, it's not a secret society. If you're on a condo board, you can't be meeting in secret. Okay, the law says you have to post a notice when your board meetings are going to be. You have to post an agenda, and the unit owners are invited. You cannot just have a secret meeting and not tell anybody and then decide stuff on your own. Then later on going, oh, the board decided that we're going to do this, we're going to do that. We're not going to fix your plumbing because we don't have no money or whatever, right? It has to be transparent. So they have to do that, right? And then at the meeting, they have to let the owners talk. A lot of there's some kind of misconception among boards where we're letting the owners talk. We're giving them 2 minutes or 3 minutes at the owners forum, either before the meeting or after the meeting, and they can say whatever they want, right? And that's it. But if while the board's conducting business and they have a question, they're going, oh, we gave you time to talk at the owners forum. No, by law, if a unit owner has a question when they're talking about financials or any other thing, the board is required to listen to them and say, oh, Martin, I understand you have a question. What's your question? We can answer it. You cannot say, Martin, I gave you 2 minutes and you talked already for 3 minutes at the owners forum. That's it. You can't talk anymore, right? Wait until the end. No, and they don't realize that they're actually violating the law by then. Or if they have a Zoom meeting and the person keeps asking questions, they go, that's enough, we're tired of you. And you kick them off the Zoom meeting, right? You can't do that, right? Now, if the guy's like belligerent, swearing up and accusing people of this and that, and you politely say, please refrain from using those words and, conduct professionally, and they don't listen to you, yeah, then you can kick them off the meeting. Yeah, kick them off Zoom. It's harder when the meeting's in person because you got to ask them to leave, and what happens if they don't leave? Then what? You got to call the cops or something. So anyway, that's just some information that I'm sharing. You guys probably don't get the nitty gritty because you're not involved in these lawsuits, but slowly the media is putting it out. In fact, the Real Estate Commission has a bulletin on condo cases. If you read the Advertiser and Civil Beat, once in a while they publish information on condo cases or problems. So, if you're interested, keep up with that. So, we got any other questions or comments?
No, Lance, it looks like that's it for today.
Okay.
But good job. I've learned a lot, even though I'm not in the condo. But it's like you said, it all comes down to being professional and like any business. And communication is always the challenge.
Yeah, good. I got this this one building. We did plumbing like in 2017 or something, and I got a call because they're remodeling their unit and they got water coming up through their concrete slab, and we did plumbing work. So we had to jackhammer the concrete slab, get to the pipe that was underground, and put new pipe in and then put concrete. So they're put new concrete back. So they're saying they're doing the flooring and water's coming up. So I could have just ignored it and said, call the plumber. I'm not involved, but I went yesterday to go check it out because any kind of, and I was a construction manager on that plumbing project. So I try to follow up because I got an email from the board. So in fact, I got to respond back to the board just to let them know, I went out there and all that. But yeah, so appreciate everybody for attending. And the next webinar is on condo lawsuits or something like that. So hopefully I'll try to get more information, and I'm sharing information that you probably don't hear from other people. You might read it in the news or whatever, but I try to help wherever I can. So hopefully you can join us then. And then, by the way, we have our whole bunch of webinars that we've given. Go to our website and pick some of them and watch it. And after you watch it, if you have questions, call me or email me. I'd be happy to answer your questions then. There's a Q&A at the end of each webinar, but if you still got additional questions, just reach out. We're here. I'll have Martin answer the phone instead of me, and then he can make up an answer that sounds good, or he can say, hey, Lance, I don't know what the answer is. Can you help them? So thank you very much. If you guys manage a condo, own a condo, whatever, and you need help with what the board needs to do, we're here. If you need help with your construction projects, reach out to us and we'll be happy to see what we can do for you. So stay tuned, and hopefully we'll see you at the next webinar. Aloha.
Aloha.